That's why we're not going nowhere, because we're living for us. We're over here doing double overtime, working 2 jobs, right? Yeah. Going to school for 7 years or so. When the hell do we watch our children? You ain't got no time watching children, you're too busy working. So who's raising our children? The drug dealers raising our children. Where most of us learn sex from in here? Our mothers and fathers taught us about oral sex, how to give head and everything like that. They taught us this? No. That's reality. We get uncomfortable. Who's going to really talk to their children about that? And who's going to teach our children if we don't teach them? You see, we're going to be uncomfortable and then we're going to be mad when our children wind up in prison or pregnant. So it's our responsibility. These are the things that we have to start addressing, because we address a lot of the metaphysical science. But we ain't really going to change nothing in our community until we start fixing what's going on in our house. Once the house is fixed, you'd be surprised how the community will change overnight. Once we fix what's going on in our house. You can't say, how come black people won't unite? Because the house ain't even united. You got to learn that in the household first before you can do it outside your household. Now, some of us are exceptional children, so we could come from dysfunctional houses and come out and still be united. Some of us, not a lot of us. You understand? Some of us are exceptional. They had a counterintelligence program back then because they were trying to counter intelligence. Today they will have to counter stupidity. So no real need to really study a lot of stuff we doing. So a lot of stuff we doing is just ignorant, just strapping down stupid. And we always think if feds is monitoring us and spying on us. Don't nobody got spying on us. The shit we doing is dumb. There's no counter stupidity program out there. This is a reality. So we gotta wake up and start doing something to make their jobs worthwhile. They falling asleep on us. They're like, we ain't even gotta do nothing to them no more. They starting to work on each other now. The devil's going against the devil because they bored. Because they feel like the job got done with us already. Well, because 10, 15 of us is conscious. You think they worried about that? They ain't worried about that. They ain't nothing to worry about with that. So we gotta start realizing how they're destroying us. In the living room is where the television is. The media propaganda. What your child sees themselves as. That's in the living room. When they watch TV, they decide they're gonna be the next drug dealer. When you watch the hip-hop industry, most of these Negroes, right, can't fathom a reality where they would name themselves after somebody who is in the demon. More especially an Italian demon, more especially one that is in fiction. The average rapper gonna name himself after what? A Capone, a Mussolini. Mussolini went into Ethiopia and killed the women and children. By that time, the man was so depressed he was able to do what he had to do until the Monty stepped in. It was a whole other level of history that they don't account for or talk about. We have to teach ourselves that. They're going to teach us that in school. You understand? But if they name themselves after Capone, Scarface, was he even a real character? Mussolini, Machiavelli, Frank White. That says a lot about how much integrity we have as a people and how much pride we have about ourselves. When the only thing we can name ourselves after is something other than our own selves and kind. Not one of them could turn around and say, I'm going to name myself Martin Luther King. Now, I know a lot of people don't like Martin Luther King. And that's okay. That's all right. You don't have to like Martin Luther King. But he put in a whole lot more work than a lot of us in the room right now. And that's the reality. Whether he's part of the Boule Society or not. I probably would have been conscious if it wasn't for the brother. That's just the reality. Maybe these brothers might have joined things because that was the outlet to join. I don't know their story. I just know they put in work. And he wasn't the punk they made him out to be because he was being threatened every day. In fact, he was pretty gangster, quote unquote. Because if you was being threatened, most of us, if the white man came down with his badge and his gun, we would put down our guns. And we would accept life in prison. But we would pick up our guns to kill each other. That's the reality. But Martin Luther King ain't do that. As much as threats and house burning downs and potential stabbings, he still went out there and taught every day. And he had black and white people hating on him. Black and white. Most of us would have just said, I'm falling back. I'm going to relent from this. It's getting too deep. Okay, that's how we get down. Somebody hears about Moors being snatched up here and there, and people say, I ain't mess with that Moor stuff. The Moors get too intense. That's how the people get. See, Negroes stop showing up to classes for a while. They call, so what happened in class today? How many people showed up? Nobody came? Y'all know them. People get nervous. People get nervous, man. It gets intense. If we re-establish the right family principles, then it can be made applicable in our community again. It can be made applicable. When we say, how come black people can't get together? Because they don't know what together is starting from their household. So again, when we're looking at the living room, When we look at the living room, we're looking at what? Media propaganda. And when you go to the bedroom, we're talking about what? The way we sexually relate to each other. And if it's under European pretense, then what you going to do? And then when we go to what? The kitchen. What's going on in the kitchen? The wrong food is being cooked. The food in the kitchen is destroying us. What does this mean? Let's think about megahertz. The brain has to be powered on a certain amount of megahertz. Right? Now, in terms of death, the amount of megahertz that's relative to death is 20 megahertz and down. The disease Candida, the brain functions on 52 megahertz. When a person has Candida, the brain is on 52 megahertz. Cancer, when a person has cancer, the brain is functioning on 42 megahertz. Okay? Our brains used to be powered at as much as 900 megahertz, making us telepathic, having clairvoyance, having intuition, having psychometry, higher senses. On average, a pretty sharp Nubian, which is ahead of the rest of the species, is now at about 100 to 200 megahertz. That means the ability for your brain to process information. Now, if a person's brain functions at 100 megahertz, they don't have cancer, because cancer can only function at 42 megahertz. So what does this tell us what takes place in our kitchen? The food has to be electric. And the more food that you take in that's electric, it heightens the potentiality of the megahertz that the brain works on. So cancer only can function at 42 megahertz. If you start reinstilling the fundamentals of an electric diet, cancer can't exist at 100 megahertz. It only can exist at 42. You understand what I'm saying? And each disease brings you closer and closer to scientific death. And scientific death is registered at 20 megahertz. You understand what I'm saying? So it's a well thought out plan. So that's why for the lecture on Sunday, we have to start talking about how we're going to reestablish the kitchen, the living room, and the bedroom based on the African construct, not the European. Go ahead, bro.
Yes, you also mentioned something about electric foods.
Yes, electric food.
Some examples of what you
An example of electric food is a mushroom, not shiitake though. An example of electric food is a mushroom, or almonds, or walnuts. Almonds, walnuts, and mushrooms are high in copper. Copper can be used as a conductor of electricity. Because where does electricity come from? Well, you have what they call proteins, and proteins, right, as they call it, is broken down into amino acids. When you inhale oxygen, right, when you inhale oxygen, the oxygen attaches itself to the amino acids, which is broken down protein. And when the oxygen conjoins or is amalgamated with the amino acids, it causes a series of explosions. And these series of explosions result in natural electricity that helps power the brain. But you see, their concept is to keep us depressed by losing our jobs, by not having enough money. If our relationship structure isn't right, we'll have arguments, our wife will cheat on us, the man will cheat on the wife, and this causes depression, and this causes you to lower your ether. This causes you to be frustrated, and this causes you to be angry. You understand? Now, why is this important or significant? When you get angry, you actually get hotter. The brain rests on 52 ounces of water. Pardon. The brain being 52 ounces rests on water, right? Now, if the brain is resting on water, right? And when you get angry, angry corresponds or correlates with heat, and heat rises. When you get angry, you actually dehydrate. You pull from the water that your brain is sitting on. Now you start malfunctioning. What do we do when we get angry? We find a piece of glass in our house, break the shit, and then you start looking at it when everything's done. I gotta sweep it up. Right? Don't make sense. Stupid, actually. When you get angry, you talk to the people that you love, right? You talk to the ones you love, and you say things that you don't mean that causes them to leave, knowing you want them to stay. Stupid. Because when you get angry, you get hot, and when you get hot, it establishes heat, and heat rises, and the heat that rises pulls from the water that your brain rests on, and the water is a superconductor of electricity. So if you don't have the water, you're going to have a malfunction in the brain. So we're angry out here as a people, so we're not thinking straight. Go ahead, bro.
So let me ask you,